Hello family, welcome to another episode of A Date with Kiki. As you know, A Date with Kiki is a show where we open everyone up to the inner world of men. On our dates, we bring to light some deep struggles in men's world that are hidden to all of us, as well as the solutions to the struggles. Last week, I had here with me an amazing young man, Rume, who works with teenagers as a coach and mentor. And I promised to bring him back because we were talking about some things around raising African children in the Western world, particularly our teenage boys. We talked about where he gets into gangs. We talked about, the expectations of parents, how parents could help. It also mentioned how his father indirectly helped him not to get into gang. I'm sure unknown to dad did that, and I'm sure he will be very grateful about that today. Well, I promised to bring Rume back, and he's back here with me, and we're going to be talking about these things in depth the more, so that we parents can learn and understand what our children are going through out there. Once again, welcome with me, Rume Obasanwa.
Oh, thank you for having me back. Really appreciate it. No problem.
Thank you so much for your time and all that we talked about. And I promised to bring you back. So where I want us to pick it from last week is what you said about the kingdom and the parents. I like the way you kind of liken those two. You said as a parent, you need to know where your children are growing up with the environment. So you now said, as a dictator, you need to know your subjects and your kingdom, right? So in this case, the dictator is a parent. Fine, we're not dictators, but
in the African home, you guys are dictators.
I will use the king of the kingdom.
All right, it's a dictatorship. You are told this is how you're going to do it.
Not anymore. No, I disagree. Not anymore.
Okay. All right. We thank God for the level of awareness.
We have the conversation.
Okay.
This is what we need to do. How we're going to do it. How we're doing it, and all of that.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm not going to agree with you on that. Sorry. So we're talking about the king. The subject and the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, as a king or as a parent in the home, how do we get to know our subjects, which are the children? From your perspective now that you work with children, what are the things they want us to know about them?
First thing is the art of listening. I think that's number one. Any child that'll tell you that the one thing that they don't like about their parents is that they don't listen. It's number one, if you do a child, is number one reason. And I think parents have to come to this place of just listening without saying anything. Listening doesn't mean you're going to give them a solution. Majority of the time, your child has the solution, right? But they just want someone to listen to. They just want somebody that they feel like they can trust and just listen to. And I would feel one is for you to get to know your child, you have to listen. Once you start listening, and if you actively listen, you would see what your child is going through. You will see the struggles that your child is facing. If you're actively listening, you would know. And for that to happen is that, we have to have a vested interest in our child. And I say this in the context of we as Africans, in our environment, we work a lot. Our career is very important
to us,
right? And the reason for that is because of what our career equates to and what it provides, and the things that it comes along with. We may not necessarily have the time to actively or be proactive about our children in terms of listening, in terms of being able to understand what's going on in their environment.
The world,
So, and for me, I understand that obviously growing up and now, as a man, I understand that a lot more than I did as a child. But the reason I understand that now is because I'm facing the same problem, right? But I definitely feel like if we're in a situation where you as a parent, you want to get to know anybody, you have to look at it as almost in the instance of how would you get to know your peers? It is a two-way thing, right? There's an active vested interest to want to get to know that person, and vice versa. So if you want to get to know your child, you have to be actively vested in what your child does, right? And you also have to want your child to be actively invested in you, and for that to take place is that you have to break this barrier almost. I wouldn't say totality. You always have to break this barrier almost to extend the hand of friendship, right? So that you can bring them this way, right? And at the same time, it's a tough thing. At the same time, still being a parent and offering guidance.
I agree.
So
it's a tough thing to be able to draw that line between the friendship and the parent role. Yeah.
Like for me, I'm 100%. I am 100% in like understanding what it means to be a parent. Like I understand, even though I'm not a parent, but I understand that
you have a lot of them.
Yeah, exactly. But I understand that the need to be direct and need to be, my way. I understand that. I totally understand that. It's the juggle that I feel we all
balance.
Yeah, we all may not necessarily get it right, and there is no book on being a parent.
No,
there's no book on being a parent.
Manual.
So you just
Someone said, "I wish he came with a manual."
Yeah, so you just have to just in a way just understand that you have to extend. You have to sometimes come to your child's level. You have to come to the playground. You have to come to the playing field. And being actively invested in what your child does, you have to listen to know what they like to do, not just throwing assumptions, right?
But I'm going to cut you there because I've got two boys.
Yeah.
We talk, but sometimes getting them to talk is a big work.
Okay.
So now you're asking us to listen. But what do we listen to when you guys
don't say it? So boys are always tricky because men don't like to talk. It's just it is what it is.
So what are we listening to?
It's what are you listening to? Okay, so you don't have to talk, but when you do talk, you have to listen.
Exactly. Okay. And sometimes
to get a child
even
to talk,
the actions talk.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
And with boys, to get men to talk, you have to 100% be at their level. If they feel like you're not at their level, you're not going to. The channel of conversation is never going to open up. How do you get there? And if, for instance, with your guys, very simple thing is spending time with them playing PlayStation. Like the things that they enjoy doing the most, the things that you feel like is wayward, is the channel to bridge conversation. So
for one of them, playing station,
it's PlayStation,
or whatever you guys call it. For the other
one is coming to this age of being a teenager,
but even with that,
into a man.
I think I kind of know.
Yeah, where to come on.
Just say, come and learn to drive. And then you hear him say, and I think I agree with you. So knowing your subject is key. How to get them to talk to you, and also be conscious of listening actively. I once did an online or something, a short course online about parenting, and I always remember what that guy said on that course. He said, when they talk to you, it doesn't mean they're asking you for advice.
Correct.
Just listen to them. Listening doesn't mean, like you said, you're giving any advice. Just listening, and that fulfills that part, and that builds trust in them. Yeah. So that's also to me.
So that's I totally agree with that.
Now let's talk about the environment.
Yeah. Okay.
We need to know our environment. How do we know our environment? Particularly for us that have got African background, we're raised in Africa and we're here. How do we know our environment?
Okay. For one, we're talking about your kids and male in general. For one, where they spend majority of the time is very important. In this case, it will be school.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be invested in that school. You have to know what's happening in that school. Right. What activities is doing? What is the school doing? What is your child doing in that school? Right. Because, for instance, Frappe plays basketball. You go to a basketball game. Watch what happens after the match. Right? See what happens, right? Who are the people that he hangs around with, right? What are the reaction, win, lose, whatever? What are the reaction of the environment surrounding your son? Because then you'll be able to know, right? You'll be able to know what challenges, and conversation can stem from that. You can say, okay, cool, you went last week, 2 weeks you missed out, but you went again the following week, but the reaction you saw was different. Okay, what happened? What happened, Frappe? I saw this person talk to you last time after the match, and was super excited for you. This time, you guys won. You didn't really say anything. What happened?
What happened?
All right. So just little things like that. It will tell you about your environment, and also as Africans in UK, in whatever city you're in,
world,
right? It's very important for you to also know what that city is doing for your child.
Good.
Okay? If you don't know, you're never going to know how to take advantage of that. You're never going to know how to take the upper hand. Like was talking about the last parents seminar we did with the organization that I work closely with. We talked about how to get free scholarships for your child. And in so when you do the interview, so the program that I do, sidetrack a little bit, I took her parents to one of the examination nights for her child to get the qualification. We went there, the parents saw that it was all Asians and white, and it was the only black person was the only like black African person there was us. And she was so taken back with because of she was like, okay, this explains why the Asian community do so well. Like they take so full advantage of what's available to them. The reason they can take advantage of that is because they're in it. They know what's happening. Mm-hmm. We just tend to be like, okay, cool, go to school, get your degree, get a job, life's good, right? We miss out the opportunities, the real opportunities. Like, do you know that Cambridge offers free scholarships? Right? How do you get those scholarships? Do you know the interviews regime that you need to go through, the processing that you need to do? All of this key advice is that your city will provide for you. Every school wants their child to go to Cambridge. Every school wants your child to go to Cambridge. Mm-hmm. Right? What is your child doing? What is that school doing to fulfill that? Yeah. Every school has a budget that they have to use up every year, otherwise they won't get that budget again. So there's something that school,
that on the radio,
right? Exactly. So there is something that the school is doing, right, to actively promote a child. You have to know that to go, okay, how do I get my child onto that program? Right? And also exposure. You as a parent, just your child gets, some schools are really good nowadays, right? They take your child to different parts of the country to have that exposure. They go to different places. But are you as a parent doing that yourself? Are you exposing yourself to a different environment in terms of on the weekends it's just to come home, cook, eat, sleep, right?
Clean.
Okay. Right, that as well, right? So what are you doing to expose yourself of the environment you're in, right? Have you ever been to the Tower of London? Do you know that is a construct that's over
even far to your town center?
Exactly. Well, I'm just saying that because that's like, that's my town center.
But even to those of us that live in suburbs, your town center, how often do you take a walk there? The other day I was driving past my town center, and I saw families walking to the town center. Fathers and children, all of them walking towards the town center. And I was like, what's happening? I came back home and actually saw they'd left a leaflet in the house to say it was a town day. So I came home and I said, guys, let's walk to the town center. Even if we don't know what's happening, let's go. Because, those things, they get you into your environment. Yeah.
So you have to be willing to expose yourself. It is, don't get me wrong, it is probably the toughest job on the planet is to be a parent. It's the toughest job to be a parent. And I always say, if you have to expose yourself as a parent for you to know your environment. If you don't expose yourself, you're in a way, you're sucking the oxygen out of your own parenthood.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
We'll take a break now and we'll be back. Ruma is not going anywhere, he's still here with us. See you soon. Yes, we're still here. Welcome back to the continuing part of my time with amazing Ruma, who is giving it to us parents real hard.
No, I'm in support of you guys.
But it's okay, we're enjoying it. Yeah. It's okay, we're learning. It's all work in progress. Yeah. Now we finished up earlier on talking about knowing our environments, getting involved, knowing the things that are available for us. And it's obvious some of us parents, or most of us, do not know these things as much as we should. So would you say, because we don't know those things, we kind of become judgmental, or when we don't empathize enough with our children?
I think as Africans we don't empathize at all, really. I don't say that in that came out in a negative connotation, but I say we struggle more to empathize just because the nature of our culture doesn't kind of warrants for empathy. So therefore, we struggle to empathize in general. In judgmental, no, I wouldn't say so. What I would say is, as parents, we tend to compare. We compare a lot. We do that a lot. Or we compare our child with another child that's doing well. Do they have two heads? is the wonderful saying.
Did they fall from heaven?
You got an A, but do they have two heads? But you don't know what that parent has invested in their child.
Or even the child's abilities.
Exactly. But how do we bridge the gap? It's probably what you're probably trying to extend for. Practically, it comes down to a couple of things. It comes down to being, involved with your child in every decision that takes place until they get to a stage where you feel, I don't know, my dad is still heavily involved in the decision I make. I'm 29, so it is what it is. So it depends. It depends. So I think decision that they make, very important in terms of, it can be as simple as GCSE. What GCSE do they want to do? What is your child's strength, and what is your child not good at? And how do we improve on that? Being, we just spoke off camera in terms of being actively involved, actively invested in your child. Very, very, very is the most important thing, because once a child, especially in this day and age where every child is driven by what they see, right? From mobile phones to TV screen, rarely find a child that sits on a train and reads a book. Very rare, right? So everything is driven.
And when you ask, what are you doing on your phone? I'm reading my book. On my phone.
So they're actively driven by what they see.
Yeah.
So if they're not seeing that participation from their parent, there's automatically you create this invisible barrier that you can't get through, you can't break through, because they're not seeing that involvement, they're not feeling that love, so to speak. So therefore that can then live to being judgmental and not being able to empathize, right? You see your son going through a difficult situation, you reply with, just man up, right? Be a man. When I was in my days, this is how we do it. You just have to, just being able to come down to their level. That doesn't mean that you allow disrespect. Okay, that doesn't mean you allow disrespect, but being able to come down to their level so that they're able to talk to you in the way that they want to talk to you. I remember this was a big thing in our household. And my dad especially my older brother and my dad, there was always this issue. Anytime my oldest brother, if you know him, he doesn't say anything. Right? He's well of dealing with stuff, so just to be quiet. But when he does speak, you better listen, otherwise you have missed the chance. So there was always an issue in our household anytime he spoke, because my dad would always be annoyed that he spoke in that particular way or with an accent. Right? It's like, why are you forcing this accent? Where did this accent come from? And he would just withdraw and never speak again. So that in itself, whatever way they find a way to speak is the way you should take it. Is the way you should take it. Like I said, if it's disrespectful, then yes, that you address that. There's no room for disrespect, because if they do not respect you, they're never going to respect anybody outside. So never tolerate disrespect, but take in the way and the pattern in which they communicate.
But yes, these are interesting things that we need to keep reminding ourselves of, particularly with the fact that we grew up in a different background from what they are growing up with in now. And
plus, you also grew up in a different timeline.
As well.
So it's not
as well. The other day I was listening on the radio. There's this guys I love listening to, and one day I'm sure going to go there and give this guy some good whatever. BBC 3 Countries Radio, their breakfast show. Oh, Andy Collins, that guy drives me. But I love to listen to them. Maybe because they are guys. They're 3 guys. Andy, Ben, and Dan. And Andy is the naughty one. I will hope he listens to this sometime someday. He's the naughty one, and he's the oldest.
Yeah.
And he picks on these two young ones, calls them millennial, calls them everything on earth, because he's a lot older than them.
Yeah.
But then one day one of them said, "But do you guys pay attention to our time?" He said, "Andy, when you were growing up, you could go out and knock on somebody's door and say, 'Let's come out and play.'
Yeah.
But these days, how many of us do that?"
Do you know, that's very true. It's so important. Like even just, I think is, just honest. I remember that when we used to go out to play, it was always, you always come and knock. You always come and knock. Even back then, because we had such a strict African parenthood, some of us would be so scared we'd get our friends to ask our parents to allow us to come out.
Exactly.
So it goes. So, and now it's kind of different. That most kids most parents don't even know
who their friends are
friends with. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because majority of the time is, I'll text you, come outside, meet me outside, meet me this, meet me where.
That's what they do. So, and the boy just comes from nowhere and says, "Mom, I need to go to the court."
Yeah.
No, you're not going to the court. How come you have to go to the court so suddenly and right now?
Yeah.
Apparently someone has sent a text.
Yeah. So, I guess...
Well, I'll just chip this in. An expo. What I do is, you need to go to the court very well. I put on my trainers and we go to the court together. We meet the friends, spend 2 minutes there and just come back home. I think for me, that's another way of knowing the environment. Just pop out with them and pop back in. I want to be fit. It's tough sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's yeah. I guess that's just the difference. I mean, when we talk about, our friendship and my friendship, like, every one of my friends knows my parents, and I know every single one of my friends' parents. Right, and yeah, is the timeline is different, the behavior is different. So it's very important that you as parents, you're evolving, you're growing, because if you force yourself to remain in this time loop, you become a dinosaur. And what happens is that your kids overthink your respect becomes diminished, right? Because you're a dinosaur. So they see themselves as advanced, and they see like what you have to provide, the information you have to provide is outdated. How you provide it is outdated. Yeah. So everything is just useless. So your child is saying to you, your parenthood is useless. So if you don't evolve, if you don't constantly expose yourself, if you don't constantly put yourself in that surrounding to know your environment, what would lead to is what we see in inner city crime. What we see is that they will find those information from somebody else. Somebody else will be a father figure in a gang. Somebody is a ringleader, and somebody is the father. Somebody looks after them. Somebody pays attention and is accountable to them, right? When I grew up, when I was younger, there was always, your elder is what we call him, right? Your OG, your elder. That's the person you report to. That's the person that looks after you. That's the person that is accountable to you. That's the role of a parent.
Yeah. Exactly.
So if you don't have that,
gradually the role is going off to somebody else who could teach them anything. Yeah.
And that's the way life is. You're going to have somebody eventually that is either in business, it'll be a mentor. If you want to be successful, if your mentor isn't fulfilling the role that he needs to fill, you're going to find someone else to do it. The same way as kids look at as parents.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Lastly, before I forget, I was going to ask you about expectations.
Yes.
As parents, how do we manage our expectations of our children? Or how would you have loved your parents to manage the expectations of you?
That's the one that hit home. I don't think we have enough time for that. For me, okay, personally, I would say that it's not. I have a huge respect for what my dad was able to accomplish and but if there's anything I would, looking back, I would have said if we paid more attention to what we did. I felt like when I was a teenager, I was always against my parents, and I felt if we worked together, I would have accomplished way more, and as a family, we would accomplish way more than what we've accomplished now. Like if he was involved in my brothers, my sisters, and so I think there was a mismanagement of expectation because we were, we thank God that we were all very sharp, we were all very smart. We didn't really try, we never really studied. We were just very home keen, very intellectual family. My two other brothers, me, my sister. So we were all very naturally gifted, but there wasn't any invested direction because of what my dad had to do and this, that, and the third. But coming back into that as an expectation, so his expectation was that because it was unnatural, we're all going to achieve this, that, and the third. Be a doctor, be a lawyer, do all of those things, which none of us. We all went different ways. None of us went to go that road. But that was because his expectation didn't match up to what we wanted to do. Yeah. Not that we didn't have the information or the ability. We just never had the right directions in that essence. So one, in terms of managing expectation, is that if your parents, your expectations is for your child to be here, right? What are you doing to get your child there? Okay, because then if you're just saying, okay, cool, your child's going to be there and you expect your child to be there, but there isn't any stepping stone for your child to get there, then we're lying to ourselves. Secondly, what is your child really passionate about? That will be tough, but you have to find out what they're really, really passionate about. Once you're able to do that, you can manage expectations so easily, so easily. So, and the only way you're ever going to find that is you have to expose your child. You have to expose your child to different things, to different curriculum, different educational system, different routes. What I mean by that is it's not just maths, English, and science. Yeah. Okay. There's different things that your child can do, and there's different avenues of acquiring wealth. It is not just university. And I say that again. There is different routes.
Careful what you say.
I'm 100%. I'm telling you. The reason I'm saying that is because if you look at it, most doctors don't even make that much money. If you look at the maths, they don't make that much money. Okay. Yes, it is a guaranteed. Yes, it's a guaranteed career. I do not despise that. I'm not trying to diminish it. But when we're talking about success, and we're talking about financial wealth, which is what most parents want their child to have, right? So you have to expose your child to different avenues. In some cases, it could be just being great at what they're good at.
Basketball, football,
different. It's endless, but you have to expose your child to that for you to know where your child is good at, and then you can then set a realistic expectation
and then be dedicated in helping them get that expectation.
Yeah. So if that means that your child might need to go to a private school, that's what your child needs to do to be whatever. So we'll talk a good example before I round up. I know we're going to round up now. We'll talk about, okay, you want your child to be a successful politician. You know that majority of the politicians that run this country come from one particular school. There's no other school. If you want to be a politician in a successful prime minister in this country, they all come from one school, which is Cambridge. If your child doesn't go to there, the likelihood of your child being a prime minister in this country is 0, right? So how are you going to get there? That's one. That's just an example.
A lot to take in there. I think I also need to go back and listen to this episode. Thank you very much, Rome, for all that you have said. It's obvious how much work you do with these teenagers. And we're grateful for all you're doing with our boys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know my boys are 2 of your boys. So. And I'm glad I brought you here today. Thank you so much, Rome, once again. Thank you, viewers, for staying tuned. And I'll see you again on A Date with Kiki. Take care. Bye. Love you.